Hello everybody and welcome to the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge. I'm your host, Jesse Showalter. Welcome back. It is day 8 or challenge number 8 of our Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge. We've got people jumping in the chat like Cornell and Rosie and Stephen James Ward. Misty is coming into the chat right now. We have Sam Peterson moderating. Go ahead and say hello in the chat. Let me know where you're coming from and give me your favorite Thursday emoji. Big fan of Thursday emojis. If you are new to the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge, let's jump over to my screen and talk about what it is. What are we doing? We've been building our Adobe XD skills in 9 challenges. Hit that big blue button when you go to behance.net/challenge/XD. You can scroll down and sign up for a community chat in Discord, and then scroll down to get your starting files right there. Our starting file today. Challenge number 8. We have today and tomorrow, and then we are all done for this series of challenges. But don't worry, you can always catch these on the Creative Replay or the Creative Encore, where you can watch them again and again and follow along. So that's lots of fun. What's our challenge today? We're going to be creating a smartwatch experience so that users can learn a new language. We're going to learn a little bit of Espanol today, and we're going to be using voice triggers to do that. A really fun feature inside of Adobe XD. Further down in our file, we have some inspiration, some resources in the booklet. You can head over to the component states menu and switch those around to get those different resources. And down below, we have some links and some tips. And then we have a couple of elements. You'll just have, most likely, this artboard. And beware, I'm about to sneeze right here in the live stream, just so you know. So stay tuned. That was a sneeze. I told you I was going to do it, and I did it. You probably won't have these illustrations because I'm not allowed to give you illustrations, but you do have a starting artboard, and this is a standard artboard. If you press A on your keyboard, you can get your, down here, your watch artboards here. I believe it's a 38mm watch artboard that we have. And then we have a couple elements on the screen. We have a headline and we have a sub headline and a couple shapes and some fun colors. So I'm going to do really quick is press Command or Control Shift Y, head over to my document assets, and I'm going to go ahead and pop these colors into my document assets, and then I'm going to pop these character styles in there as well. And okay, that should be pretty good. I could create components out of all of these if I wanted to, but I probably won't do that. Nah, let's not do that. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. We don't need that. We'll just keep these and we'll work on them as we go. So the idea is to use voice triggers today. If you've never used voice triggers, they're really, really fun. The challenge for us is we're actually going to do voice triggers in Spanish and see if we can get those to work. So will Adobe XD work in Spanish for us? We will find out. I'm going to take these illustrations and move them over just a little bit. I'm going to grab one of them, though, that we're going to call our starting illustration here. I'm going to grab all of these out of our group and just have these flying around loose on the pasteboard, and we're going to use that first one there. Okay, so why don't we move these shapes out, because I'm not sure if we're going to use those, but I definitely want to leave my illustration, some sort of illustration onto the screen. A way to just give a little bit of visual interest, a little bit of visual cue, is to lead things off of any particular artboard. So instead of sticking it right in the middle, we can kind of enlarge and then drop it off the edges. Just kind of fun, kind of like explore the edges of our artboards. We got Gareth Williams coming in from Scotland. Annie Matt says, hi everyone, with a cute little emoji smiley face. Lots of fun inside the chat. If you're watching this on YouTube, come on over to Behance and watch it here with us. All right, so I'm going to move these down just a little bit. And that's, I mean, really, that's our first artboard. That's all we really, really need. Okay. Let's move over and do a second artboard. So I'm just going to drag a new one over. We're going to call this start. And then actually, let's just number these, shall we? I'm just going to call this number 1. And then we'll call this number 2, and we'll just keep going on and on and on. A really good plugin, maybe we could just keep going and dragging out artboards, but if you wanted to explore a really, really good plugin, one of my favorite plugins actually is this one called Rename It. And that will allow you to grab a series of artboards or folders or layers inside of your artboards, open up Rename It, and then we can rename selected layers. And it has a really, really intuitive interface where you're able to just say, hey, I want to call them something like this, start from 1, and then we want the maybe like a sequential number going up, and then it'll just rename everything for us. That's a great little plugin for all of you that are organizational freaks like me. I really love keeping things organized. Okay, let's move to our second artboard here. And if we wanted to, we could, you know, probably do a little bit of work here and say, hey, we're probably going to keep the cat on. And why don't we group these together? Yeah, why don't we group these together? That way our cat will be there and our starting illustration will kind of pop out. So we'll just keep this one kind of centered because we're going to do also a progress bar for our test, I think. So we're not going to do this type of animating for every single one, but we should probably do it for the first one, I think. So this one could say cat, and then underneath we'll just give a little prompts like say this word in Spanish. Okay, so here's our Spanish quiz. It says say start to begin. So we're always going to have kind of main title up here and then small prompts underneath in that style. So why don't we take this same one that we had here, come over to our first artboard, and why don't we just reverse these. So I'm going to bring this in and bring that one out. And let's just grab these elements and make sure they are centered. They don't look very centered, but apparently they are. Boy, it looks really off center to me. That's okay. And maybe it's just our cat illustration is off center. Okay, so that's all we need for that. Let's now do a little bit of a progress bar, shall we? This can be really, really easy. I'm just gonna hit R for rectangle. I'm gonna drag out a shape, and then I'm going to fill it, Command or Control Shift Y. I'm gonna fill it with our blue color. So we headed over to our document assets panel. I'm gonna do another one like this, and I'm just gonna bring the opacity down to give like kind of a little bit of like a neutralized version. I'm gonna bring this down. Now we have a little bit of a progress bar for both of these. So let's click there and shrink them down. It doesn't have to be so big. Let's do one more piece of text in here, and this can be the level that we're on, like level 1. Let's move our little kitty cat illustration up there, and then we'll do another one over here, and this will just say 1 out of 3. Okay, let's right align this and left align this just to kind of keep things consistent. Let's go 8 pixels away from the screen or edge there, and 8 pixels there. When you're doing smartwatch interfaces or really small screen real estate, you gotta watch out for spacing, because they can turn out to be it's really nitty gritty with the limited amount of real estate that we have. Okay, so we're actually on our first step here. So what we want to do is come in here, go back to our interface, and let's grab, this is our progress. Let's call this one progress so we can see it. And let's drip that back. We haven't accomplished anything yet, so let's just put it right there at the edge. That can be pretty good. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press, with these two things selected, Command or Control K to turn it into a component. And let's go and name that component really quickly. Progress bar, just like that. Let's create a couple of states to it. So here's a new state. We'll call this state 2. And all we're going to do for state 2 is just drag this thing out. You could actually, if you want to be really, really mathematical, you can get the width out of here and go divided by 3, and that'll give you a perfect kind of multiple. All right, so we've completed the first one. That's the second state, right? And then we'd want to do another one, a new state like this. We'll just call this one 3, and then we will go again. Let's just times this by 2. 6133 times 2. We're doing math up there in our inspector panel, and we're going to do one more based off the previous. So when we select inside of our component instances, selecting which state you want to work off of will duplicate or create a new state based off of the previous one. So that saves us a little bit of work. This is the final one where everything is done. Now we have one component with multiple states just like that. We didn't need to do that, but it's nice. It's nice to think ahead of things a little bit. Okay, now from here, what we want to do is have some sort of success state. Okay, so I'm going to drag an artboard down and I'm going to create a success state. I'm going to grab this little element. Well, before we do that, I think I'm going to grab all of these elements and just bring the opacity of them down, something like, I don't know, 10%, and then we'll bring our little shape above, And then I have this little icon also that we're going to work with today. I'm going to bring this onto my artboard and just create a success state. All right. So let's just bring the size of this thing up. And I'm not sure if I love the shape. I probably don't love the shape, but that's okay, because this is just what we are doing. You know what? Never mind. I'm changing it. I'm getting rid of this shape. I don't like that at all. So why don't we go back to our layers panel. I have my little check mark thing, and I'm gonna hit E for ellipse, drag an ellipse out, take the border off, and I'm gonna fill it with my primary kind of blue color. And let's just align these two elements up. Now, here's something fun to play with. You'll notice that I use the alignment tools to perfectly align this thing. It is mathematically balanced, but it's not optically balanced, right? Because our check mark goes up and beyond, it looks a little bit funky to our eye. So you actually have to manipulate a little bit, and maybe we would just want to balance the circle. That'd be the way to do it. But this is really common for check marks or play buttons, video play buttons. Really, really common little issues that we have to optically balance things. All right, I'm going to group those together. I'm going to call that success and just make a component out of it, and that should work. Okay, now we're going to do a really quick prototype test to make sure this thing is working. Okay, so let's call this 3. And what we're going to want to do is head over to our prototype tab, and we are going to set our home here, and we'll call this our test, right? Our Spanish test, or let's call it quiz, excuse me. And if you've never used flows, as soon as I start prototyping things together or declaring a home, like I'm doing here, I'm going to get the ability to name the flow and then move the entire flow around. That doesn't seem very special now because I'm moving around one element. But as soon as I connect, and we're going to grab the entire artboard, not an individual element, but connect an artboard one to another. Now when I drag this flow around, we're going to drag every artboard that is in that flow with it, which is pretty cool. Okay, so we selected the entire artboard, we wired it over to the next artboard, and then we're going to change our trigger type from tap all the way down here to voice. And we're always going off of the previous command to get from A to B, to the far one, right? So what did we need to say? It said, well, to start, say the word begin. So we're going to just type our command in here, begin, okay, like that. And then we're not going to transition. Let's try auto animate really quickly. And then our destination is 2. Why don't we do ease in and ease out and slow this down just a little bit. Let's do something like 0.6 seconds. Okay, so just slow it down a little bit. Now the last thing we probably need to do is come back over to design mode and grab this whole lockup of progress, group it together, and call it progress, like that. Okay, I misspelled progress, but that is okay. And then to complete our auto animation, we're going to just pop this in here, and why don't we just lead it off the page a little bit and whoop, just hide it with the opacity. Okay, so that should be pretty good. So we're going to say back to our prototype tab, when we say the word begin, it's going to auto animate, it's going to prototype over. And the way we do that in Adobe XD is by holding down our space bar once we start this process. Okay, so let's press play, and you can see it's here. I'm gonna have to lean closer to my computer to say the word begin. Let's try it. Begin. Almost. Let's try it. Let's try it one more time. Begin. There we go. And by saying it, our animation, it works. It works pretty good. And we're getting all of our information below. So with that being said, we now need to do our second trigger, which is to say the word cat in Spanish. Now, I've tested this out a little bit. The word cat's a little bit funky. Adobe XD registering the word cat, but we'll see how it goes, okay? We're going to do the same thing. Voice, the word, who knows the word for cat in Spanish in the chat? Let me know. Here we go. It is the word gato. Okay, so we're going to say the word gato, auto animate, ease in, ease out. Now we don't have some of these elements on the screen, so I think the only thing we really need to do here is to bring our success state up, pop it inside, bring it down, and then take the opacity down, and we should get fading of the contents and then animating up of our success state. Okay, so we have prototyped over by saying the word gato. So let's try this one more time. We're going to do it one more time and see if it works. All right, let's move these things out of the way so we can kind of see our little tiny our little tiny prototype right here. I'm going to press down the space bar and try it again. Begin. Okay, we animate over. Let's try the word gato and see if we can get it to work. If we can't get it to work, it's going to give us a little warning and tell us we said the wrong word. Gato. No match for no, so it heard me say no. So it has troubles with this word. Let's try one more time. Gato. It worked that time. I had to say it with not the proper pronunciation, but it worked, okay? All right, so now all we'd have to do is just duplicate this process over and over. So let's come back to design. We have 2 and we have 3, and all we have to do is duplicate and then replace the elements inside. So let's just get rid of the auto animation because we don't care about that so much anymore. And we'll bring in some little elements, and let's change this to say guitar. All right, say this word in Spanish. Okay, pretty good. Now, once we get there, we should be able to come in here and raise the level. We probably want to do the same thing for this, right? So once we get our confirmation, we want to see it auto animate. That's one fix we needed to make. And then this is going to take us up to the next one if we get it right. Okay, so we have the word. Let's do our little guitar illustration, and the word guitar will come in here, and we'll delete those, paste them in, and move them to the back. And then what is the level of transparency? We had about 10%. So let's move this down to 10, okay? And that should work just fine. Let's do, we should still have our little success hiding in there. We sure do. We're gonna move this over. Let's do another one. Get rid of this guy and bring in our trash can. Okay, let's say trash. And again, we're gonna grab these elements, move them around. I'm just gonna pop them in and take them down to about 10%. Pretty good. Now, once we're here, we should be able to update our progress bar to 3. And then once we get this last one correct, it'll be all the way up at 4. Let's stop there. Let's do our prototype work and see how it goes. Okay, this 1 is going to 2, 2 is going to 3. 3 isn't going anywhere right now, so we need to do our time transition. Here's what I'm thinking. As soon as we see the confirmation, let's give it like half a second and let it just automatically move over using a time transition. So let's zoom in so we can see what we're doing. I'm going to drag up to our next artboard, and let's say a time transition, no delay. Actually, how much of a delay? Yeah, let's do like 0.5 second delay. That should work just fine for us. Auto animate, ease in, ease out. Let's duplicate that same process. And then once we get back here to the end, let's go to the start. Okay, so those worked out great. Now we just need to do the same one. So we're gonna time transition up to guitar, and we're gonna do another voice command. So let's do voice. We're gonna do the word guitarra up here in our command, auto animate down. Everything should be working out great. And then one more voice command for trash. That is the word basura. I didn't spell that right. Here we go. Let's see if we can get this thing to work. It should work. It should work. Let's see if it works. We're gonna try this one more time. We're gonna lean in and we're gonna say the words as they're presented to us. So we're gonna say the word begin. Begin. Let's try it again. Let's make sure everything's rocking and working for us. Begin. This is really embarrassing. It should be working. Begin. Well, let's troubleshoot. Let's figure out why it's not saying it. Yep. Voice trigger. Begin. Okay, let's start a prototype from the second one. See if we can get it to work. Gato. That's a hard one. Gato. It worked that time. And time transition over to number 2. This one's going to be guitarra. Let's try it. Guitarra. Good. Okay. And then lastly, we'll say trash. Basura. I think Adobe XD really honors the rolling of the R's when you're speaking Spanish. So it wants you to pronunciate the correct way. So All right, that was pretty fun, pretty cool. Now from here, we could, like our little trick yesterday when we were doing our streaming service, we could do this artboard by artboard, or we could have done component and component state variations and then taken that component state and dropped it into a mock-up. You could do it that way as well and have some fun with it. All right, so okay, somebody, Ilis Anderson says, I missed the beginning. These illustrations are so cute. Where'd they come from? They came from the Blush library. You can find it online, and that comes from Pablo Stanley, the amazing, the one, the only Pablo Stanley, and his library of cool illustrations called Blush. Could you type phoneticized versions of the words to make it work better, like gâteau? I think you can, and maybe that will help us a little bit. Why don't we try that? Why don't we try phoneticizing it a little bit? I think that's a great idea to play with, okay? So even though you and I know that's not how it's spelled, can we put the word with an H in there? All right, and then where did it? Yeah, G-A-H-T-O. Let's try that. Maybe that'll respond to it a little bit better, okay? Let's try from there. Let's try it. Let's see if this works. Gato. No, it's still hearing me say the word no. For some reason, Adobe XD voice triggers don't like the word cat in Spanish. So I have to say it without the good pronunciation, the proper pronunciation. Gato. I hate saying it like that. Ooh, it's tell. So it doesn't always work, right? How about just for the first one, we replace it with cat, because we're having some issues, aren't we? Let's try it one more time. Cat. Cat. It understands cat. Moves to the next one. Guitarra. Good. Basura. Pretty good. And then it leads us back to the start, and that is voice triggers, voice commands, and timed transitions. So a lot of fun today. I cannot wait to see your versions. Somebody said, darn autocorrect. I love, somebody else said, I'm trying to learn the Korean alphabet, Hangul. I wonder how far I'll go with that. I wonder how far you'll go with that. And then Jennifer Poole said, El gato es muy bonito, which means that cat is pretty cute. I agree. It is a pretty cute little cat. Hey, let's jump over to my browser and check out some of the submissions from yesterday's challenge, which was to build a live streaming service. This one was submitted by Annie N, always submitting really, really cool stuff. The streaming service challenge. Let's see how far they took it. Nice scrolling, beautiful, horizontal scrolling. Good. Okay, we're gonna click on one. Ooh, that was a spicy 3D transform. Can we see that again? Ooh, that was nice. It kind of flickered in from the side. Ooh, I like that. That was really choice. I think the interface is really, really clean. I might want just a little bit more contrast, maybe a little bit darker, like a dark overlay here, and as it leads down. But man, I thought it was really, really beautiful. And then I just loved the aesthetic of the whole thing. We had another one over here. This is challenge number 7. I forget who this one was submitted by. It was by Drew Solorio. And now I'm into like rolling my R's. So I said Solorio. Here we go. Blade Runner, cool. Got little hover effects on all of our things. Now we didn't get any sort of interaction between this and the movie, but we are going to get an interesting interaction to add it to our watch list. Let's see how it looks. Ready? Boom. Nice and clean. Now, what you could have done is, because we're just getting a little bit of glitching, what you could have done is when you create this component with component states, you could have had a nested component with multiple states. So your little plus button could have been a component, and you could have morphed the plus into a check, and that would have been a component that has multiple states. Then you could have had the word watch list and added built into this button with that component of our little plus or a check mark and plus, and then switched and swapped those, and the whole thing would have rotated and animated. That would have been really, really cool as well. I love this design. I love the top bar with a little bit of that background blur, that kind of glass effect. Everything's just really clean, really, really nice. Well done. Well done. This one is by Anubhav Raj, and we got a couple of different things going on here. Let's check out his streaming platform, streaming service, and see how it goes. Ooh, we got some drop downs, drop down menus. Okay, watch those rounded corners on those movie posters. I would personally like them to be a little bit crisper, but that's just me. Nice, very nice. Everything kind of transitions from the bottom. Yeah, good. I would say everything needs maybe just like a little bit of padding, a little bit of spacing on it, and a little bit more like contrast so I can read the typography. But besides that, everything's really nice. Interactions, super smooth. I'm having a lot of fun with it. Take it to the next level. Keep working on it, as I like it a lot. We have time to look at one more, and this one is done by Abernail Banerjee. Let's take a look a little bit at this guy. All right. Oh, beautiful. Nice switch. Really seamless. Really easy. Love it. Nothing to say about it. No complaints. Everything's laid out really, really nicely. Even I love the addition of the top bar. Great job, y'all. Great work. Great job. Well, hey, if you're watching the creative replay, the creative encore of this, I would love to see you take today's challenge, this smartwatch design, and I'd like to see a level 1 and a level 2 with maybe some stats. We did our animated charts, right? I'd love to be able to see my charts or my animated stats on how I'm doing as I'm learning my language. Add that, bring that into this challenge, and bring this whole thing to life, and maybe even drop it into a mock-up using some 3D transform. Make it spicy, make it amazing. Put it inside the Discord so we can review your work tomorrow, and on Behance using the hashtag XD Daily Challenge. We will see you right back here, same time, same place, for the final session of our Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge. I'm your host, Jesse Showalter. We'll see you tomorrow.